Hello, welcome to my channel, Comfy Cozy Knitting. My name is Laura. If this is your first time visiting my channel and watching my videos, thank you. Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. If you've been here before, welcome back. As always, I'm so excited to just hop on here and chat about whatever is going on, especially about what I am knitting. Today, I am planning to give a little update on just what I've been up to in life over the past couple of weeks and what's coming. Also, I'm going to share a couple projects that I've been working on and just, continue to savor the art of slow knitting. And then I'm going to share, I have a quote. And actually today, I'm going to share my quote first because I want to do something a little fun with you. So let's start with that. So today's quote, or getting cozy with books right from the start. This is the quote. Life, he decided, was never a question of accumulating material things, nor in the struggle for reputation, but in the widening and deepening of perception, increasing the sensitivity of the faculties, of an awareness of the world in which one lives. All right. So normally I would share like what book it's from and like who's the author, but today I want you to guess which book is this quote from. So I have either finished or am reading a few books, and so I'm going to share those with you real quick, and you can let me know in the comments where you think the quote is from. I was going to share at the end what the answer is, and maybe I will. So why not pause after I share the books with you, comment and tell me where you think it's from, and then you can see if you're right at the end of this episode. So here are the books. The first is Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. I finished this maybe a week ago. Oh, I was up late. You know, when you're at the end of a book and you know you need to go to bed, you're like, I'm so close. It's just going to take a few more minutes, and it ends up taking like another hour. But yes, very good book. Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. Is that where the quote's from? Louis L'Amour's book, Flint. This is a Western. I mean, can you tell? So I'm in like a book club. I guess that's what we are. And this was the next book. I don't think I would have picked this up on my own, but it was a very entertaining read. And I felt like I was getting time with my grandfather who passed a couple years ago. So in that way, it was kind of special. And I didn't know this, but they're making this into a movie with Sawyer in it. Now, Sawyer is not the actor's name. I say Sawyer because I know him from Lost. So I think that might be pretty good. All right. Next is Gut, is the quote from Gut. This is the book a friend is letting me borrow after everything I shared that happened. I don't know how much I shared in the last episode, but I know I mentioned that I went through some kind of health scare thing related to the gut. And so my friend recommended this, and it's actually been really fun. I'm not that far, only read like this much, but it's been fun. So, and then last but not least, Paradise Lost by John Milton. So I don't even know why I did that. Like, don't we all know this is by John Milton? So I actually am listening to this book and I'm going pretty slow. So I lost it again on my Libby app. If you don't know what Libby is, it's kind of like Hoopla, I guess. But I decided that when I have it again, I want to also read along with it sometimes. And so I went ahead and checked this out as well through Interlibrary Loan. So which book is it? You tell me, and then I'll tell you later. All right, so let's go on to what is on my needles today. So I have two projects. You're not going to be surprised. I am solely knitting for my man right now. And it's kind of special because I was trying to decide how much I was going to say, but it's just kind of my MO to kind of go a little deeper. And so I'm just going to say it, okay? Just going to say it. This past year has been a very difficult year. It's been a very good year for my husband and I. His name is Adam. So for Adam and I, but it's also come through some really hard things, some really big tests. And we are in our 11th year of marriage, and we've always had a very sweet relationship. We call it like the sweetness between us. I remember when we were dating, Adam prayed that we would never lose this sweetness, and we really haven't, but it's definitely been tested. And we're very close, we're very good friends. But I would say our marriage was still challenged maybe about a year ago. And this past year has been really a year of me fighting. Not that there's anything going on Adam's side, but it's almost like fighting my own, for lack of a better word, demons. I'm not talking about literal demons, but just like things that are coming up from my past that I've known I need to deal with, and I've maybe been kind of tinkering with, but like now came up as like this boss, like in a video game, that's like standing in between me and like where I want to go in my life and in my marriage. And so it's been very challenging. And as I've fought, it has led to some just good resets. And one way I think about it is like, as a Christian, if you're a person of faith, you're familiar with the phrase like set your mind on. So we're to set our mind on the things of God. We're to set our mind on the Lord. But I think there's a way in marriage, or really in any relationship where you're called to love someone or take care of them, is to set your mind on that person, to pay attention to them, to consider their interests, not only your own. And like, I think there's a way, especially after 4 kids, going through the baby stage, being in it for almost a decade, where you can find yourself just kind of like surviving and not doing that extra, like not like really sewing to or tending to the relationship, just kind of getting used to the status quo, being complacent. And you can also find yourself coping with the stress of life with in unhealthy ways that get in the way of a healthy marriage. And so these are things I've had to confront. And I just think it's so appropriate and fitting that right now I am solely knitting for him, as this has been a year of me really turning my attention to him and making sure that I'm like actually, I don't want to say loving because I love him, but like, yeah, just like devoting time and attention to him as a husband, not just as a father, not just as a partner in life, but even not just as a friend, but like as my husband. And so, yeah. So anyway, let's get to the knitting. So this is the men's classic raglan pullover by Jane Richmond. This is a worsted weight sweater. I'm knitting it with, and you can't, there's not much to see here. I'm still knitting the raglan increases. I haven't gotten anywhere close to separating for the sleeves yet. I've been going pretty slow because it's summer, and I guess I just have a... All right. Had to switch things up a little bit. I recorded a whole episode only to find out that part of the way through my mic ran out of juice. And so I am now going to re-record the last portion of this episode and continue talking about my sweater. So let's jump back in. So this is the sweater. This is my progress. Again, we are savoring the art of slow knitting, so I'm perfectly fine just sharing the little bit of progress that I've made. I'm happy about it. I'm content with it. And my goal is to finish this for my husband sometime in November. And I think like if I were like obsessively knitting the way that I have been for the past 3 years up until recently, this would probably be done in 2 months. The only reason why I don't usually finish things that quickly is because I'm often knitting on several projects at a time. And I'm also not a very fast knitter. But yeah, man, I said so much in the last version of this. But basically, yeah, I think that's good for right now. That is my men's classic raglan pullover by Jane Richmond using Drops Alaska. I'm really enjoying working with this yarn. This is a very great change from the acrylic yarn I was using for my last sweater. I just really love the feel of working on it. In fact, like even as I'm sitting here and I see these stitches about to drop off my needle, I'm like, oh man, I just want to knit. I just want to knit. Yeah, this is nice. Oh, feels so good. I'm definitely itching to get some knitting done today. As you will hear soon, I have not been knitting every day. And so I do hope to get some time during our family movie night tonight. So the second project I have is a pair of socks, vanilla socks for my husband. And these are knit with Woolberry Fiber Co. It's a berry sock set called Pumpkin Spice Latte. And when I last shared about these, I really wasn't feeling them that much. And so when my husband was really excited about them and thought they looked great, I said, oh, these can be yours. So I love knitting socks for him. And if he liked them so much, it's like, why not knit these for him? But once I got to the heel flap, I was like, oh, I actually really like this fabric and how it's coming together. I would love to wear these socks. So I'm going to try hard not to steal these from him. That's what I get. Because he was definitely like, no, 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 these are your socks. These are your socks. And I'm like, no, babe, I'm going to give these to you because you are more excited about this yarn than I am. So, and I think that is probably still true. And honestly, I'm probably just bored because it's just vanilla socks. Oh, oh, hold up. Sometimes you're like thinking you're pulling out a loose needle, but it's actually not. It was on stitches and you just didn't see it. I definitely lost some stitches here. So I'm just gonna pick these bad boys up. I feel like this happened last time, but not as severely. Oh my gosh. Sometimes when I'm multitasking, because I can't multitask, I do dumb things. So it's quite possible that while I was talking about these in the first take of this video, that I just did something careless and dropped these stitches. Definitely going to be ones that I have to fix once I get to the gusset. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. We know this, right? Once you get into knitting, well into it, you realize drop stitches are not that big of a deal. It's just annoying. And I'm glad that I caught it when I did. So I feel like these moments, like I could edit it out, but I feel like they help with the vibe that I want of just chilling with you. And I hope you're knitting or doing something relaxing. Now, if you're cleaning, then this was not helpful, and I'm sorry. It'd be better for me to keep talking if you're cleaning, keep you company. All right, so those are my vanilla socks. I'm using size 1 needles. That's 2.25 millimeters. And for my sweater, I'm using size 7, 4.5 millimeters for the body of the sweater, and then size 6, 4 millimeter needles. I'm giving like both sizes, the US and then the millimeter, for like the collar, cuff, hem. So yeah, those are my socks, and I'm just knitting them. I've knit a lot of socks, so I'm just going with it. I cast on 64 stitches because they were first for me, but it will still work for him. And I just went for it. When I get to the toe, I will either refer to Ann Budd's Getting Started with Socks, because that's the book I use to learn how to knit socks. I'll refer to her toe shaping, or I will refer to a summer leaf pattern because I like her toe shaping as well. And we'll just go from there. So those are my socks. And the last thing I wanted to talk about in regards to knitting is mojo. Have I lost my mojo? Is that the real reason why I haven't been knitting? Am I losing that? Am I losing interest? Now, I do tend to hyperfixate on things and then I lose interest and I'm just like, I'm done. I don't think that's the case, okay? I don't think I've lost my mojo, and I also don't think that I've lost interest and I'm just gonna move on and like sell all my yarn or whatever. That's kind of dramatic. Like, why would I even think that's the case? But I think there's a slight worry of it because of things in the past, patterns that I have had in the past. So, but I don't think either of those things are true, honestly. I think that the magic might be gone. Like, I was pretty obsessive the first 3 years. I've only been knitting a little over 3 years, and I just really got into it, and that's how I learned how to do it so quickly. It's because I gave it a lot of time every single day. So I think, oh man, I said so much in the last one. That's like, I can't really say all that again. But suffice it to say that the last few years have also been very hard years, not just because of the stuff I mentioned with marriage, like losing family members, just different dynamics, moving, changing communities, homeschooling. That's every year it becomes a bit more rigorous as my oldest gets older and has to do more, and like spiritual struggles, just all kinds of things. So I think knitting was definitely a comfort and a balm to me. It was something that I felt like I needed. If I didn't get it, I was pretty like, there's a lot of angst in me. Like, oh my gosh, like I need to knit. And I would be very frustrated if like it was too busy and I didn't get to it on a certain day. And honestly, I rarely let that happen. And so I would probably avoid something else that I should be doing and knit rather than like sacrifice knitting. So I just felt like I needed it for me. And I think that's important to do things that we need to do as self-care, to take care of ourselves, help ourselves be in a good mental space. But I think there's a place for that, and there's a place for saying, okay, now we can pump the brakes a little bit. It doesn't have to be that intense all the time. You don't have to finish a whole bunch of things. You can go slow. And so I think what's happened this summer, it hasn't even really been intentional. It's been a tough summer. As you guys know, I've shared a little bit about why in past episodes. And then I have these interests that have been so helpful to me, like gardening. And in fact, I think in the morning, because usually I would knit in the morning before the day gets started. I would knit in the afternoon after the school day, decompress, and then I would usually knit again sometime in the evening. And then sometimes it would just be like the bookends of the day that I would knit, right? So with gardening, that kind of took out that morning knitting time. And that's just been such a simple joy for me lately. And then add on that I've been reading a lot more, and some of these books have just been so good. And as I near the end of them, I just could not stop reading. And so rather than knitting and trying to read, I just had that book, I just had to read. So that's taking up space. Maybe that's what I started doing in the afternoon or maybe in the evening instead of knitting. And then I decided to level up my bread making skills. So for the past year, I've been knitting. I've been making sourdough bread, and I really got into a rhythm using my bread machine to knead it, and then anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. Yeah, I had a rhythm. It wasn't a big deal, but now because I accidentally bought some wheat berries back in January, I've decided to get into fresh milled flour. One, because I need to use these berries, but also for the health benefits. And so my sister, on her own, also decided she wanted to get into that. And so we decided to go in on a meal together, very affordable one, not these really pricey ones. We decided to just go with the manual one. And that was a funny story because I got it in the mail and I used it a couple times and it was fine. It still took longer than I wanted, but it was doable. But then the next time I tried, I was trying to mill 600 grams for a loaf of bread, and it took me 5 hours to do that. Actually, I didn't finish. My husband had to call it and be like, Laura, I think you need to like just, you know, you need to recognize that this is not happening. Like, this is too long. And I was so sore. My kids were helping me. It was just so stressful, but I was just for a long time just unwilling to accept that this was not going to happen. And so I finally accepted it. We returned it, and now my sister and I are going to try to get another one that's nicer, but still more on the like, what do you call that, economical, affordable side of things. And so it's going to be it's an electric one, and so hopefully that will come either to my house or her house in the next week or two. So anyway, in the meantime, a friend has let me borrow her really nice mill. Let me show you. That mill, oh, I'm having so much fun with it, and I've been making a lot of bread. Like every day, I'm making a loaf or two, because I'm making it for us to eat now. I'm making it for us to eat, well, for my family to eat next week, and for me to take on a trip next week. So I'm making a lot of bread, and I'm using this as an opportunity to learn about how to make bread with fresh milk flour. So I'm not always doing it the same way. I'm like watching videos, trying it one way, watching videos, trying it another way, taking notes, trying to figure out what's going to work for me, especially for when our school year begins officially. So that's what's going on. Man, I didn't mean to talk that much about that, but there are a lot of things that I'm getting into. And so if I'm like not knitting, I'm probably watching something on YouTube about bread making, or I'm actually making the bread, or I'm outside with my kids working in the garden, or I'm reading a book. And so, or just tending to things that need to get done around the house, and doing it with more contentment than I ever have. Whereas before, I would be really anxious because I just want to get to my needles. So it's very interesting. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I'm cool with it. I'm with it. So I have my notes here. I'm trying to think. So, oh yeah. Going back to the quote at the beginning of the video, is from the book Flint by Louis L'Amour. It easily could have been from Gilead. It's not the same writing style, but the theme is definitely in Gilead, about life and appreciating life and really appreciating the world you live in, and how when you're facing death, you see life differently and you appreciate even the smallest things, even something like water that we can so easily take for granted. And so there weren't a lot of quotes in here that I pulled out. This is definitely like action packed, story driven. It's not very reflective or anything. So, but this one I pulled out because I thought it was good, and I thought that there was a neat connection with Gilead, which I also just finished. So that is it. Let me know if you have thoughts about anything that I shared today. Just so happy to be with you. I had so much better energy the first go round, but it's okay, right? We just keep it real here. We're not trying to perform or be impressive. At least I'm not. I know there's a lot of that, like on Instagram, which is why I'm not on it, and even here on YouTube, but I'm just here to connect with other knitters just as I am and just as you are. So I hope to see you again soon. Thanks again for joining me. Bye.